Hi everybody, and welcome along to the first of the Déise coaching webinar series that we have for February, March and April. We're delighted that to have this series. We're really looking forward to. We have some great guests lined up over the coming weeks, and it's fantastic. We're after getting huge engagement from people over the last week or two when we announced this series or whatever. So it's brilliant that we're starting off really strong with a really good guest. Our first guest tonight is going to be Colm Crowley from the Cork GA, or he's a GDA with Cork GA. He also has coaching the game, and he's hugely experienced in the sphere of coaching children. So just before we start, just a couple of small things. Number one, if anybody wants to watch this recording back at any stage, if you're an attendee on the call, you'll be able to watch back the entire thing at your own leisure. You can pause if you want as well while the talk is going on now, and then you'll be able to just to pick it up then again whenever you want. And if you need to dial off the call for whatever reason, there's no problem. You can dial back in. It's not going to affect the way the talk is presented or anything like that. There's no issues at all. Like I said, it's not like a normal Teams call where you'd have to mute yourself or turn on and off your camera. So we hope everybody really enjoys the talk. So first of all, I'm going to introduce Colm Crowley. So Colm, how are you keeping?
Good, Barry. Thanks very much. Thanks for the invitation.
No problem at all. We're delighted to have you along, Colm. And how is lockdown treating you? How have you found the last few months? Has it been tough for you? I suppose no more than the rest of us there, probably missing out on coaching teams and stuff like that.
Yeah, just kind of, I suppose, probably hitting harder now than ever before, just with the fact that January and February usually be getting the wheels going for the year ahead. So as I said, just hoping I suppose there's light at the end of the tunnel in the not too distant future.
That's exactly it. So Colm's talk is going to be about coaching children. It's going to be about, we titled the talk "How to Control and Embrace Chaos." Because for some coaches, that's what coaching children can be. It can be a little bit mad, it can be a little bit crazy. But Colm will give his experience over his years coaching children or whatever, and pass on some hints and tips or whatever. And I'm sure we're in store and we're going to have a great presentation. So Colm, we'll just hand over to you. You can just work away there. So all right.
So thanks very much, Barry, and thanks to Owen and the rest of the team for the invite. I suppose honoured and flattered to get an opportunity to speak to coaches and to be able to share some of my thoughts and experiences with everybody. And look, I'm not going to try to brainwash anybody tonight to a way of thinking, which is I think it might be right, but I hope that I might be able to challenge some of your own thoughts that you might have yourself. And if we can do that, I'd see a success in it. Okay. My contact details are there. I'll throw them up again at the end. And if anyone has any questions, I know we might have a chance to have a few questions at the end of the presentation. Okay, so first thing I want you to do is, what is the role of the coach? The role of the coach comes up in every course, foundation course, Award 1 course, all that sort of stuff. But what I want you to do is just take a minute, and I want you to write down 5 words that you would like a kid that you coach now to say about you in 20 years' time. So let's say I'd like someone to say that Colm Crowley was very fair. Colm Crowley was he was very kind. They're things that I might like, but I want you to write down 5 words that are applicable to you. So just take a minute, write it on a sheet of paper, on your phone, text herself or himself, and just write down 5 words that you'd like your players to associate with you when they look back on the time you've been coaching them. So just take your time there and don't overthink it, just whatever comes to your mind. I'll just give you another 20 seconds there now. I can scribble down something. Let me give another 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so what I want you to do is just keep that handy. And I think as a coach, I think it's very important to reflect on stuff. And obviously those 5 things they hold a value as well. So as I said, if I think fair is something that I'd like to be known as, am I bringing that to every training session and stuff like that? So look, just keep that. As I said, you might maybe change 1 or 2 of those words by the end of the session. I hope not. I hope you're all empathetic and fair and kind and well-wishing and all that. So we'll drive on and we'll see where we are, okay? So what is controlled chaos? So it's actually a term that I first heard used in a coaching context was in 2006. I did an Award 1 coaching course in Athenry when I was in college in Sligo. And Paddy Butler actually mentioned it. He mentioned controlled chaos. So got me thinking, how do you control chaos? They're kind of contradicting a small bit. So I Googled control chaos the other day, thinking I'll have some catchy quote now that'll impress everybody. But what I actually came up with, or what came up most common, was this, some sort of a hair product that's common across the world. So I stopped the search right there and I went back to the best example of controlled chaos that I've witnessed. And I suppose I was a GPO in Dublin for 6 years, and I spent 3.5 years in a town called Rush in North County Dublin working for a club called St. Maurice. Now that's a picture of the school, and there was 760 pupils, give or take, in the school between junior infants and 6th class. And the yellow box area there, that was the pitch that was used every single lunchtime. And it was a 5 versus 5, either a Gaelic football or a soccer match went on. So there was 2 teachers ran it, one ran the soccer, one ran the football. They'd play 2 6-minute matches, 2 6-minute football matches and 2 6-minute soccer matches every lunchtime. There was umpires, linesmen, referees, the whole lot, statisticians that the students in the school would do. So the 4th class boys might be playing football, the 6th class boys might be playing soccer on the same day, and vice versa. That changed throughout the year. The red area, that's where the girls played Olympic handball. One of the teachers is a big Olympic handball fan. She had a match going there every day, 2 6-minute games every single day, every lunchtime, regardless of the weather. And the blue area is the junior infants and senior infants used to play. So the rest of the area, less than half of the rest of the yard, was for 540 kids, roughly. And there was probably about 40 or 50 different things going on there every lunchtime. So it could be a soccer match, it could be cricket. Cricket was big in the area. It could just be chase games. It could be anything at all, basketball, Gaelic football. There were so many different things went on that it was just impossible to look at. So as I said, there could be pitches crossing each other. It could be one match going one way, the other match going the other way. But it was just chaotic to the eye, to the outsider, let's say. But for the kids, it was very much controlled. They were conscious what they were doing and they were aware of what they were doing. And there was a huge amount of learning in what they did in that little space they had with such a crowd of people around. And as I said, if you were an untrained eye looking in, or just a normal person like myself or you or anybody, looking in the back fence, you'd be thinking they'd need a triage tent to cater for the wounded with the amount of injuries that would be happening with so many people in that area. But very, very little injuries. But the kids had lots of fun. So that to me is controlled chaos. And it was controlled, or it was chaos, but the kids had it very much controlled. So this picture, and I love these 2 pictures because they're so contrasting in a way, okay? But I suppose the thing I love is, what is the difference between the top picture and the bottom picture? And the only difference is there's a coach. That's the only difference. That's the one thing that's different between the top and the bottom. Down the bottom, there's just 10 boys playing basketball, having fun. Up the top, just 10 boys or girls probably wanting to play basketball or whatever, but there's something stopping them. It's probably this person here or that person there. So we got 1 ball, 1 net, and we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that we can count of, and there's probably a few more that we can't see. But a common thing that happens in this situation where there's one person doing something and the rest aren't, is you can see these 3 boys here, and they're jostling. Now, to them, they're happy out, they're playing, but to a coach, they're seen as messing. And this coach is looking down there, and what'll happen is he'll get distracted. He'll stop the girl up here from doing it because he wants to watch her. He'll give out to the boys here, make them stop, then he'll go back. Then the boys have a longer time to wait before they even go back to actually playing. So it's just something to be conscious of as a coach, is queuing and waiting, and is it necessary? So I just want to show this clip now. I hope this works. As I said, if it doesn't work, if it's a bit sketchy, I'll try to share a link online and you can look at it. But it's from a film called Kicking and Screaming. It's Will Ferrell is in it. You might recognize him at the back. But I'd actually ask any coach or parent to watch the film, because there is so much learning in it. And I know Shane O'Hanlon, I was talking to from Wexford, and he used to show parts of this at the foundation course. And there's so much learning for a coach. Now, it's a funny film, and it's childish enough, but there is, as a coach, if you look at it and say, what can he do? What's he do well? What's he not do well? You will find so much. So I'm just going to play the video here. It goes on for about a minute, but we'll just talk about it a little bit after, okay? I hope it works.
Excuse me. Thank you. Kind of smooth. What's in that?
Smoothies a shoestring. You want coffee?
What?
Relax. No, you relax. You're a regular here. This lady needs to move.
I beg your pardon.
So I'm going to stop it there. I don't know actually was the sound even working, but as I said, if not, I'll share it online on Twitter there tonight, and then you can check it out. But basically what it is that cues by their very nature are boring. Now, obviously he's got a coffee addiction, so he had a different problem. But if we go into a bank or into the shop or go to the drive-through at McDonald's and there's a queue, chances are you'll probably just go, sure, look, I'll come back a different time. And nobody likes to queue. And a lot of the time in training, and as I showed from the previous pictures, kids are queuing. And if we go to a bank and there are 5 people in front of you, as an adult, what you'll probably do is pull out your phone and you'll check your email or send a message or something using to entertain you. And you will have something at the end of your phone. But when kids are on the pitch, they don't have that avenue. They don't have that avenue of actually being able to engage themselves. So what do? They play with the person beside them. And there's a small understanding of what we think they do versus what they actually do. Like, we think they're messing with somebody else. You know, they're pushing or they're grabbing or dragging or whatever. But in fact, they're just playing with somebody else. That's how they see it. So it's important that we're able to, what puts them in that situation? They want to play, yet we're not letting them play. We're making them stand in the line and wait 2 minutes before they touch the ball. So I'll just give you one story of, like, we used to have he was a brilliant coach, and I know this story mightn't portray him in the best light, but we had a coach, and in fairness, he coached me at under 10, under 14 and minor level in Killa 3 different times, and, you know, just a great coach, great guy. But he was the only coach we had at that age group at the time. So he used to be down the pitch at 6 o'clock on a Tuesday evening, training the under 14 boys. And we just had a big group. There was about 20, 25 of us. And there was a couple of boisterous boys at that age group as well. But on a few occasions, he got so annoyed with training because of the messing, and I call him messing, that he just hopped in the car and he drove home. So it could be 6:30. The coach could be gone home, 20 boys left down the pitch. And what do you think we did? Pick 2 teams and play the match. And what we were being given before that was very structured content, straight lines, maybe 5 balls from the 20 of us doing drills and whatnot. And that's how fellas get messed. That's why fellas start messing, and I use that in inverted commas. That's why fellas start trying to entertain themselves. So as a coach, you need to be conscious of what are you actually doing, or if there is messing within the group, or there's 1 or 2 boys that are, or girls that are boisterous or giddy, what are you actually doing to create that situation? So you have to reflect that it's not just the children are messing. Children by their very nature are not mean-spirited, but they'll just want engagement. And if they have to stand and wait, and you're going, Jesus, you're ruining the training session. But sure, they're ruining the training session because they're bored. So it's something that we have to be very, very conscious of. And, like, one of the hardest things in the world to do is to get kids what you actually want, to do what you want them to do. It is really, really difficult. And this leads to getting stressed out for your own health, well-being, and enjoyment. Just let go of the reins a small bit. You don't have to be as structured as you might perceive to be. I'm going to show you another film or a video. I hope this works a little bit better now and the sound isn't necessary, but some of you may have seen this online there last week. I know Barry shared it on Twitter and I shared it as well. So some of you may come across it. So I'll just watch the first few seconds of it. So I'm just going to stop it there. Now, first of all, I hope it's not too jumpy because I know the videos mightn't transfer across very well. But again, I'll share this on Twitter tonight. And what it is, just kids randomly running around. There's a couple of blue dots in the ground and you're going, they're just running around from dot to dot. And there's no real, it's chaotic. It's chaotic is what it is. And I suppose what I'm saying is what may look chaotic to you is the kids are very controlled in what they're doing. And what the kids are actually trying to do is they're trying to play Connect 4. Now, we all know how to play Connect 4. It's a game we all probably played as children, where we get 4 people in a line. So as you can see, there's blue dots in the ground, and the kids must stand on them in a line of 4 in whatever angle, okay? So it's the yellows versus the non-yellows. So we'll watch the rest of it here now, and we'll just see a little bit better. And we have a winner. So as you can see, it took a bit of while for them to get it, but they knew what they were trying to do, but just to get a winning and losing. But you can see poor old Joey there. If you watch it back a second or third time, you'll notice that the yellows were one person away twice from winning it and should have won it. But poor old Joey had the obvious mindset of being defensive minded, and Joey was trying to stop the opposition from winning as much as he was, more so than he was trying to help his team win, which is a good way to be, because you need those type of people. But it just shows that what chaotic, you're looking at it going, what the hell is going on there? The kids know exactly what's going on. And I said, while it looks chaotic and there's a lot of going twos and fro's and backwards and forwards, the kids know what they're trying to get out of it. And that is what GAA is. Hurling football matches, once they get out on the pitch with an opposition trying to get the ball off them, that's what happens. It becomes chaotic. Situations arise, we need to be able to decipher the situation and make a decision on what we're going to do. And we need to be able to put kids in the situation to do that. So what skills people might say, look, that's a lovely game, yeah, but like, how does that benefit GAA? Like, what does that relate to hurling and football? What skills are they actually acquiring there? And what skills can transfer to the game of hurling and football? And so, like hurling and football, we see skills in hurling and football as first touch in hurling, striking, catching, jab lift, solo, block down, tackle. And in football, we see the kick pass, punt kick, hook kick, hand pass, high catch, all those skills. That's what we consider skills. But skills in the game are much broader than that. So like you're thinking there, what skills are they actually learning? Well, there's huge amount of teamwork going on there, huge. The communication is massive, verbal, non-verbal. You can see pointing, you can see calling. Like that's real good stuff that'll benefit them as a team. Their speed, they're working on their sprinting, they're working acceleration, they're problem solving. They're trying to look around, what can we do to win this or to correct this? Peripheral vision, they need to be conscious of awareness, coordination, balance, agility, change of direction, etc., etc. We can keep going. It's probably 30 or 40 things that they did in that game which will relate to what they do in the GAA pitch. So just going to move on there. So as I said, the benefits of a chaos games and non-chaos. So I'll call a chaos game Flush the Toilet. It's a very basic game. Most of you are probably aware of it. If you're not, Google it and make sure you get Flush the Toilet game on YouTube as opposed to an actual just toilet flushing. Versus straight line jog. You know, we all did it years ago. You jog out to there and come back and you do your dynamic stretch as you're going. And what are we getting out of the chaos game of Flush the Toilet versus the jog in the straight line? And in Flush the Toilet, there's teamwork. It's a crucial aspect of team sport is that we're able to work as a team. Jog in a straight line, no real teamwork to that. We might get in symmetry. It might be like some choreographed synchronized stretching or something, but there's not a huge amount of teamwork. Communication, verbal and non-verbal communication in Flush the Toilet is huge. Being able to look and see and make a decision is very important. In doing the straight line stretches, only the coach is communicating, or else if there's a player leading it, the player is communicating. Problem solving. Have to be able, when you're playing Flush the Toilet, you have to be able to problem solve to win the game for your team. Doing a jog in a straight line, no real problem solving there. Awareness, flush the toilet, you have to know everything that's going on around you. Jogging straight lines, your only awareness is probably wondering what's going on in the other pitch. There's a match there, great, we'll watch that. Peripheral vision, something that works in these chaos games, not really a factor when you're just doing straight line jogs and stretches and stuff like that. And last and most importantly is the games are lots of fun. Kids really, really enjoy it. Like you could see the body language of the kids as the game was going on there. Real positive and deflated when they lost. So that's a huge part of playing and coaching, is that we're able to give those situations to the kids. We're able to teach them about winning and also teach them about losing, because they're not going to win every game. So I'm sure you can all agree that when you started coaching, so if you're a novice coach, and what I consider a novice coach is somebody who's in the first 3 years of doing it, okay? And it's not a derogatory term anyway, it's just to separate the tiers of coaching, let's say, that I use. You're very conscious of what other people would think of you. You know, Jesus, nobody wants to do it, first of all. If you don't have a background in coaching or playing, you're very scared of actually going in coaching, which is a perfectly acceptable thing. And a lot of you are probably that person, that you were dragged over the fence, will you just come in here and stand there? And all of a sudden you're in charge 3 weeks later. And a lot of the time we're conscious of what other people are thinking. And we're conscious of those people that are sitting on the sideline and not bothering to help out for whatever reason. But we're more conscious of what they're doing or what they're thinking versus who the stakeholders, which are the kids. We should be really conscious of them. So like, it's great having a parent going on the sideline. Jesus, Colm's brilliant, didn't he? Look how organised, cones everywhere and organised straight lines, and they're doing drills. Look at them all lined up straight. That's brilliant stuff. But really, is that good for the player? As I said, for you as a coach, it might give you a bit of a comfort. But as a coach, you need to be out of your comfort zone a small bit. The same way you want your players. Learning happens outside your comfort zone. So we need to do that as players, but also as a coach. So as I said, don't be too worried about what the parents are saying and what the other people are saying behind you. No, obviously, reflect if they're giving feedback on something. You have to take it on board and see can you become better. But don't be worried about about trying to impress them, because a lot of parents are just grateful that you're there and you're willing to give up your time. And I'd say 95% of parents are like that. So don't be afraid of that, and don't be worried about it. So this was a picture of goals. For kids, it is the best thing ever. Okay, they absolutely love the goals. So I was coaching in Killa at home the last 2 years, and back in 2019, more so than 2020, I tried to get down the pitch a little bit earlier on a Tuesday night to help the under 7s and 8s, just an extra body. But the kids would start arriving at 5:45 for 6 o'clock training. Okay, the coaches would be chatting, they'd be getting the pitches set up for the exercises and for the matches at the end of the trainings and stuff like that. But what do you think the kids did? The kids all gravitated towards this. They all went straight for the goals. What would happen is if there was somebody standing in the goals, they might play 2 versus 2 outside, and that game might go up to 3 versus 3 after 2 minutes, up to 4 versus 4. New kids come in, who am I playing with? And they just play away. You'll have other kids will be there, and all they do is they'd either be trying to hit the ball out of the hands into the goals or over the crossbar, or else kick the ball over the bar, or throw the ball, but that's all they'd hit. And like within a 13-meter square, you could have 20 kids either swinging hurleys or kicking footballs or playing, but they were all happy, and it was a piece of learning for them that they found. And training would start, they'd all go into the coaches, but as soon as training finished, if the parents weren't waiting for them there, they straight back into the big goals again, scoring. Kids love scoring. But as I said, the kids, they were able to do it. And right now, don't get me wrong, there was kids going straight out there without their helmets playing hurling, and there was people all around them swinging, and you'd have to run in and get them out of there and get a helmet on them, you know. But there was this kind of chaos that they were comfortable in there. They were within their little zone and they were happy, okay? So use goals and use scoring and use things like that as much as possible. Look, I suppose drills is a word that I dislike, and they're way too common in juvenile GAA. No, I'm not saying they should be banned. I'm not saying there's no place for drills. But I'm saying if drills are black and games-based coaching is white, you should be coaching somewhere in the grey. You shouldn't. I don't think you'll ever go completely one way or the other. But you should definitely be going lighter towards the white. The more accomplished the kids get, and the more confident and competent they get at the skills, okay? So find that. But like most of us here, I got this picture up, most of us here drive a car or have driven a car. And a lot of us probably learned, first of all, the first time we were driving a car was either down the GA pitch around the car park or in a shopping centre car park late at night or something like that, with mum or dad showing us how to drive. And that was our introduction. And that's the first experience we had, because it was the first experience, but soon enough, once we could and once we were capable of getting the car going and stuff, we went out on the road. And it was a chaotic environment. Going from that car park where there was no other cars around, loads of space, nothing to crash into, to going onto a road with other cars and junctions and stuff like that, it's a whole different place of learning. And that's what I said a while ago about getting outside your place of comfort is where the learning happens. So imagine learning to drive a car the same way we coach GA. So for the first couple of months, we just begun down to the training, and all we'd be doing is we put on the seatbelt, take off the seatbelt, put on the seatbelt, take off the seatbelt, and repeat. A couple of months later, we'd be up to the handbrake, and we might spend a bit of time at the ignition, switching the key on, switching the key off, switching the key on, switching the key off. So we put the handbrake up and we put it down. Excellent technique. We got whoever's coaching us, that's a brilliant technique. Excellent. Well done. You've nearly got it perfect now. We can nearly move on to the next bit. But that's not how we learn. And it's the equivalent of doing a jab lift in training 50 times and dropping the ball straight away. And it's something that we all did. Jesus, I remember doing it. Run out, jab lift the ball, drop the ball, go back to the back of the line, next fella goes. And we repeat. And we all did it. But like, that's not what hurling is. Hurling is about getting the ball and moving the ball onto the next phase of the field, be it as a pass, hand pass, strike, kick, shoot, whatever it is, or travel with it. There's more phases to hurling. So if we do, a lot of the time we do stuff in isolation, which once we get to the pitch, it doesn't transfer. So it's important that we don't go into this stage of driving a car and trying to coach the same way, okay? We have to look at the full picture. We don't just do bit by bit. We try to learn the basics, and then a lot of it comes from being in the chaotic situation of out on the road at the first time and coming to a roundabout. That's the chaotic situation which will embrace learning, and the kids need to be at that stage too. So I'm just going to go through some games here, and I suppose what are chaos games? And for me, like, there's physical development, let's say, which would be a warm-up. So we'd use them in a warm-up, which would be where there's versus somebody else, team chase games, individual chase games, winners and losers. So I'm talking about games like Flush the Toilet, Stuck in the Mud, Monkey's Tails, where there's a bib hanging out of the back, a variation of that, Cups and Saucers, Bulldog, etc. They're all kind of chaos games. There's one team versus another, you're trying to win. But there's lots of multi-directional movement, lots of all the things I mentioned earlier on, acceleration, peripheral vision, awareness, coordination, all that as well. In skill development, we've got what we're looking for in skill development in a chaos game is we're looking for an opponent, first of all, that there's a scoring element. That's multi-directional, it's not just straight-lined activities. That there's winning and losing. There's teamwork, communication, and decision-making. And a couple of games that might fit into that for a child, let's say for younger age groups now, it would be Rob the Nest, No Man's Land, variation of that would be Invasion, Croaker Run, 3 versus 3, 4 versus 4, 2 versus 2, just possession games or scoring games, Last Man Standing, Over the Bar, Piggy in the Middle. They're just simple chaos games. Now, as I said, I'm just giving you a few examples here, and I'll go through a few of them, but they're very, very basic. But as I said, if you go back to the middle there, what are we looking for? We're looking for an opponent. So if I can catch the ball, if I'm 6 years of age and I can catch the ball competently into my chest in football, right, how many more years do we need to spend doing that? We don't. We need to bring it to the next level. What's the next level? The next level is probably trying to catch the ball when you're moving. And the next level beyond that is trying to catch the ball when there's somebody in front of you that the ball goes over and you must try to catch the ball. So you get to develop it as it goes on, step by step. As I said, put in place the foundation, then the first floor, second floor, third floor. But a lot of the time we'll see coaches do the same drill with an under 10 team. And if they're still coaching the same team 6 years later, still doing the same thing. Same exercise, same activity. And all they're doing is going, come on, faster, faster, harder, stronger. We have to be better as coaches at that. We have to help the children and the players to develop their skill set, okay? So I'll just go through a few of the games here real quickly, okay? So we've got Rob the Nest, and this can be done in football, hurling, okay? And it can be done, like, let's say, I'll just use this as hurling so you can see the diagram. in hurling, we got 4 groups of 4 in each grid. All the balls are in the middle. When I blow the whistle, you run out, you get a ball, you dribble it back to your square. When all the balls are gone out of the middle, you can then steal a ball from one of the other teams, okay? So you can run, so the person in the yellow can run to the red, steal a ball out of their grid, dribble it back to their grid, okay? And repeat. So if we're doing it with, let's say, under 8s, under 9s, we might get them into jab lift or roll lift and solo in hurling, or they might be doing bounce and solo in football. We could be doing it with junior infants, and all they're doing is a bounce every 4 steps. And junior infants can do this game, and it is chaos inside there. But they love it, and they're happy, and they all get a ball. So the alternative of this, let's say that's a chaos type game. The alternative was, and we've all seen it done, would be groups of 4 with 3 or 4 cones in a straight line, and you go out and you dribble the ball around the cone, and out around the next cone, and out around the next cone, and out around the outside cone, and back in, and then you give it to the next person, you go back to the back of the line and you wait. But as a player, like, which game is giving you more learning? If going out around the cone and they're waiting, and this is where problems start happening, this is where confidence in kids starts waning, is imagine if I'm the best player and I've got the worst player on my team. And the coach is saying, right, practice this now for 3 minutes and then we're going to do a race. I'm going, oh no, I've got Sean on my team. Oh my God, he's useless. Like, Sean hears this, just hears a bit of it and goes, oh, maybe I am useless. And when Sean stops coming back to the GA pitch in 6 weeks' time, you're wondering why. It's because he's probably put in that situation. No, there's no malice out of that good kid, because kids, there's no malice about those kind of things. You know, they say things without thinking of the consequences a lot of the time. But as I said, if we put them players, those 2 players into that situation where one of them can be judging the other when they're very young, it can be very detrimental to a child's confidence and willingness to stay with the GA. So I'll just get through these really quickly now, because I know we're going a small bit slower than we hoped. No Man's Land. So you're all aware of No Man's Land. There's about 40 different games, from the basic, which I do in junior infants, which is throw out the balls. In football, they just kick the ball on the ground into the other side. So the yellows kick the ball into the reds kick the ball back into the yellows. And in hurling, they're just striking the ball over and back. So they get a ball, try to stop it. If they can stop it, great. If they can't, they go back and they find another ball and they hit it over. Simple as that. Most basic game in the world. But it said the alternative was before, there's 3 people on one side, 3 people on the other, 1 ball. I hit the ball over to you, I run over, I go to the back of your line, you hit the ball back over to my side, you run over here, go to the back of my line, and we wait. 5 more people go before I touch the ball again. So in the space of a minute, hey Ben might touch the ball once. But if we're playing No Man's Land and we got 16 kids there and we got 15 or 16 balls, geez, I'm touching the ball nearly every second. Like, I'll probably get 45 seconds of actual real engagement with the ball. So as opposed to 15 seconds with the drill, or 10 seconds with the drill, I'm now getting about 45, 50 seconds. So as soon as I strike a ball, I'm looking for the next ball. I'm engaged. I'm happy. I got a ball. Again, where this helps out for kids that are good, let's say the strong and the weak kids, or the less developed, is the good kid. If he's got a ball, he doesn't care what else is happening with anybody else. So if Colm is weak and he's struggling, you as a coach and with the other coaches, is you can make sure you go in and help Colm. You can make sure you help Sean. You can make sure you help Barry. Help the kids that need help. And the good kids, you might say, right, John, what I want you this time, I want you to hit every ball off your left-hand side. And he's going, oh, but that's my weak side. Yeah, but look, we need to practice at both sides so they can be equally good. Okay? And again, I've got junior infants that'll do that. I'll set them a challenge where they will go from one side to the other, and I'll say you can only kick the ball with your weak leg. And they'll do it. The kids will do it, and it's not a problem. And again, same thing, get in, help the weak kid. As I said, this is where you get the real coaching done, by getting into the weak kid, and there's no judgment. You don't have to stop the drill so that the weak kid gets a bit of help. Everybody keeps going. Everybody keeps going. As I said, if you were doing the traditional drill, they all have to stop and look at you coaching that one child. So keep them all going. Playing chaos games helps that. I keep rolling real quick now. Croker run, very simple. The green man is me, I'm the coach. There's 8 kids above there, they have a ball each, they can dribble in hurling or solo and football. They must get from one side down to the other. I'm going to try to tackle. No, if we leave the kids do it, and let's say the best kid is in the middle, who is he going to tackle? He's going to tackle the weakest kid. The kid that needs the most training is going to be knocked out in the first round. So as a coach, you do it. First of all, the kids will love beating you, but you know that you can leave them all go 6 or 7 times. Get nobody, you stop nobody. But all of a sudden then you can start taking them down, and it can be done really quickly. But as I said, if you leave it to the kids, the good kid will get the weak kids. Natural selection, they'll go after the weakest of the herd first, and then they'll go after. But if you get the good kid, and if you get the best kid first, and you go, right, make sure now you get him, he's the second best kid, then they're matching ability to ability, and that's where real learning for them comes. As opposed to just getting the ball off the weaker kid. They're actually trying to get it off someone. And again, what's the difference here? The difference is before they were going in and out around a straight line. Now there's somebody to compete with. Now when the coach comes on, I have to the kid turns their body so their back is to the coach, so the ball is far away. Then kids will start learning these little things very quickly. Okay? But as I said, when you see that game going up and down, the kids are all sprinting, be it football or hurling or whatever, they're flying, and there's a huge amount of learning in that. Okay? Dribbling and tackling, again, similar to the last one, or it can be football or hurling, where the coach might be without a ball, all the kids have a ball. If I get the ball off you, you become the tackler. You must then go and get the ball off somebody else. If you get the ball off somebody else, they become the tackler. So again, nice simple game, but the coach can be specific to who they're targeting. You know you're not going to rush in and get it off the weak fella first thing. You might go over and tackle the best fella. Make him learn how to use his body a little bit better. Again, loads of things happening in that, okay? So the benefits of a chaotic environment, all right? So we've got, as I said earlier on, less messing. As if I go back to any one of these games, there is 100% engagement. Every single kid is fully engaged all the time. So if they're fully engaged and they're busy and they've got a ball to chase, they're not going to be messing, okay? So kids, by the game ongoing, they're not going to be bored. They won't be pulling at anybody. They're only going to be thinking of the game. And if a child is messing, 9 times out of 10, the coach needs to reflect what they did to cause the child to act like that. What do we do? Like, why were they? Geez, they were very hyper today at training. Look back. What did we actually do in the training that might have encouraged that? So giddy kids are engaged. And said, look, giddy kids, call them whatever you want. I know some fellas were saying put stars on their helmets so you know which ones to keep an eye out of. But if they get bored and start messing, they'll only do that if they have nothing to do. So if they're bored, if they're waiting for in line, that's when they'll start messing and engaging others and talking to others, and you spend more time trying to correct them then, whereas you just need to leave them off. I said some giddy kids you cannot control, you just need to leave them off and try to keep as much control on the rest of it. But if they're playing no man's land or rob the nest, the rest, nobody else gets bothered by them when that's happening, okay? Keep them active, burn that energy real quick, okay? Individual skill development. So I spoke about that a while ago. If we're playing a game like rob the nest, which is dribbling from one side to the other, or dribbling, trying to take the balls out of the other squares, a third of the kids are very capable, a third of them are competent, and a third of them are probably poor. So we need to help those ones. That's where we can go in as a coach and go in and help them. And so the good kid, he might bring 10 balls back. The weak kid might bring 2 balls back. But for him, that's a success. He's contributing to the team. So you and the other coaches need to really help the kids here. And as I said, set the good kids challenges, right? See if you can get 12 this time in the next minute. That's the good kid. The weak kid, it might be, let's see if you can get 3. And you as a coach need to direct that and say, but it's specific to the individual. It's not shouting out, right? Tom, you must get 12. John, you must get 3. You know, and said, but individual, if you can set little challenge, little nuggets to the kids, that'll all work out. Less judgment, as I said, think back to the video of Will Ferrell there. If a child is at the front of the queue is weak and he's taking forever to go around the cones, kids at the back get impatient, okay? They'll have to wait longer before they get a go. And as I said, it's no malice. They just want to have a go. They just want to be touching the ball. And nobody will want to be with the weak children. So imagine if they're having a race at the end of this training session and these are the groups and you're going, oh, Jesus. Sure, next week when the coach says, get into groups of 4, there's not a hope you're going with that young fella. So that's just the way kids are, but we have to try to help them by not putting them in that situation, okay? As I said, think about the worst player now, could be your best player in 10 years' time, could be the most important person in the club in 20 years' time. Might be a person who wins the lotto and decides to give you $500,000 for the redevelopment of the funds. And said, you'd rather keep as many people on side as possible. More realistic to the game. So every year when the under 8 blitzes start, and this is every single year, coaches will come up to me and they'll be going, geez, like we were doing brilliant at training. I don't know what happened today in the match. It was like there was lights in their eyes. And I'd say to them, well, you know, what were you doing in training? You know, sure, like they're kicking, you know, we're practicing our kicking there, and sure they couldn't kick today. And I go, yeah, but was there somebody trying to stop or try to block them when they were kicking or training? Oh no, we haven't gone to that stage yet. Okay, was there someone trying to get the ball off them when they were training? Oh, not really, no, sure, we're just doing a few drills. And you're going, right, well, you know, this is where the problems come. We have to be able to give the kids skills that once they get into the match, they will execute. So I said, by being in somewhat of a chaotic environment or a chaotic game, they'll do that. But if we're in straight line drills that look great, what's the real impact of the match at the end of it, okay? So less uncontested stuff. Once a child can kick a football, what's the next level? How do we make it harder for him? Or once a child can strike the ball or jab lift the ball, how do we make the next stage harder for them? We don't want them, they're not going to be in a match, they're not going to be playing under 8, just jab lifting the ball with nobody around them. So how do we make it harder for them? How can we get it to develop them? And the last one is more fun. After all, that's why they're all there, okay? Games are way more fun than drills, simple as, okay? Now, I'm going to through this really quickly. So why games are better than drills? All these things, you can read them all yourself, awareness, agility, acceleration, they all happen in games. They not, or can't say for sure they all happen in drills. So it's very important. So I'm going to leave it at that. If there's any questions, I know Barry, if there's a few questions that you got in by email, we can go through them. But other than that, thanks very much, everybody. I'll share the slides and stuff with Barry, so I'm sure that he can, or you have the link to the video. So thanks very much for your time with all that.
Colm, fair play, that was absolutely brilliant. I suppose what I kind of took from it there was coaching in the grey, I suppose, like you said. You know, that you know, drills could be the black side of things, games-based stuff could be white, but we need to be somewhere in the middle, you know. So a load of stuff to take away there and loads of suggestions for people to kind of follow then as well. So yeah, so brilliant stuff. I just have a couple of questions there, Owen, or Colm, for you there, right? These are ones that we would have got when we pre-registered, and there were ones that, if anybody has any questions as well, if you just go up to the Q&A section there or whatever and just fire ahead. But one that we got here previous was, how can clubs or coaches get more parents involved as coaches, assistants or helpers? Okay, very simple. Probably the horse is bolted on a lot of these, but it's important to get coaches in very early along with the kids. So if we have an under 7 team in the club, it'd be a lot easier to get a coach to help with the under 7 team or get a parent to help with the under 7 team than helping with the under 14 team in 5 years, 7 years time. And a simple thing like that is because if a coach comes in, they're coming in at the ground floor. They're coming in the same level as the kids. It is easy for a parent to do a ground striking drill or exercise, so do the no man's land or rob the nest or flush the toilet, than it is to be working on tactical stuff that they'll be using later in life. So important that when you're doing your nursery or doing your under 7 or under 6 training, that you're encouraging parents to get involved. How you do that is get them in. Look, we need 7 parents to stand here for these exercises, you know, be it even just monitoring, or 1 parent go back to rob the nest. We got 4 different boxes. We need 2 parents in each box just to talk to kids through what they're doing. Simple things like that. So it's about engaging them, but as I said, get them in early. You have to get them in early. There's no point in asking them to come in at 14. You need to get them in at 7. And same as the kids, they'll develop the kids. Kids develop their skills. Parents will develop their coaching skills as well. Yeah, brilliant. Super stuff, Colm. Another one we got there. So how much time in a 1-hour session would you devote to fitness across the different age groups? So I suppose if you're talking maybe from under 6s up to under 10s, under 12s, how much of your session are you going to give over to kind of the fitness side of things? There should be, there's nothing specific. But what I would say is that, like, everything, if you want to look at fitness, let's say that we're working with under 6s, we want them to be better movers. So we want kids to be more agile and stuff like that. We want them to have the fundamentals. I can go down to some nurseries and the whole session could be done. They might never have football or hurley, but the kids are having loads of fun. They're crawling, jumping, rolling, twisting, they're doing all that. As they get older, you want to be able to do the fitness and stuff like that through the session, through the games. So if I want to do, let's say with an under 14 team, if I want them to work on stamina, I might do
3 versus 3 in a 20-meter square possession game. It's hugely intense, and it's specific to what they're doing. The old traditional stuff of lots of long runs and sprints and stuff isn't applicable to what the needs of the player in the game are. So do it within the game. So as I said, if we want to build on stamina, right, how can we build stamina into a game that we're using a footballer's litter? If we want to build speed into something, right, well, what can we do for speed? Let's say, do you know what could be a great game for speed? Now I'm just thinking, if we're using a ball, is one player gets a 5-meter head start and they must get out to the 45. The player in front has the ball, bouncing and solving every 4 steps. That's working on speed, but it's also working the skill. So try to infiltrate the ball as much as possible, because kids, especially from under 12 down, they're very active. They should be speed and fitness and stuff should all be coming naturally by just playing at school. But the smallies, under 6s and 7s, lots of fundamentals, lots of movements. The ball isn't the most important thing there.
And I suppose, in fairness, they'll probably be doing a lot of that movement in their warm-up anyway. So, you know, the warm-up and maybe a fun thing to do at the end as well, maybe after you play a match at the end of a session with nursery kids, is probably a good way to probably build in a bit of fitness into it too. Yeah. So we'll just quickly take a couple from the Q&A that we have, right? So somebody asked a question here: if a player makes a mistake in a drill, how do you make sure they learn from it? Do you stop and repeat it, or what's the best way to deal with it?
But first of all, don't do drills. That's the first thing. And once we get that sorted, look, I think it's about, I suppose, the perception for a child. If they feel they're letting people down, like, the learning is going to be a negative type of learning. Whereas a lot of time, what we find is, like, kids know when they make mistake. Everybody down the pitch, be it a coach or whatever, knows when they make mistake. So there's no point in highlighting it and thing. But if a child needs cues to correct something that they're making regularly, then that should be something where the coach talks on a one-on-one basis. So as I said, if we're doing drills, it's highlighted. I can see straight away, Jesus, Barry's after messing up the high catch the last 5 balls now. Like, he can't catch the ball. That's exaggerated. Barry knows that. All the other players playing in his group know it. So as I said, with smaller kids, try to keep the games-based stuff as much as possible, where that stuff, if Barry is weak, I can go over and talk to Barry while the rest of the game is going on. I said it's very difficult for kids when the whole thing has to stop for 1 or 2 of them to be corrected. So just be careful of that and how you do it. And I suppose, look, as I said, no kid wants to make a mistake. They all want to do it. They all want to do it as best they can. But as I said, sometimes just the skill set they have at that time doesn't cross over.
Yeah, and actually we have another question that's probably kind of similar to the one that we just kind of covered. They're kind of slightly linked. Should you divide kids into groups based on ability or not if you have significant numbers? That's a kind of a difficult one. And I think that's the kind of grey that we're talking about earlier on. That analogy can be used here again. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. I think, depending on the age and the awareness with the kids themselves, like with smallies, they don't need to be broken into good or bad or different, you know. And I don't think as you get older, like if you've got an under 14 team and you've got 25 kids, like the 25th kid is going to play a part at some stage during the year. There's no point in him playing against the weakest fellas and not being challenged. He needs to be able to learn. So I think what you're doing in the coaching sessions needs to kind of cross that over. Personally, I've never made kids go into good, bad, and different group or strong, weak, middle, and weak, because the training sessions, as I said, the games that they're doing, they shouldn't mean that. And as I said, for a child, for a 7 or 8 year old, if they'll know as well if they're being put in the weak group every week. And the weak group, if you went through your numbers, they're probably the ones that'll stop coming back. They're the ones that are getting the least amount of love. They're the ones that are getting the least amount of coaching. They're the ones that are getting the least amount of well-dones from the coach. And they're the ones that feel, sure, I'm not really wanted up there. So it's very important that how it's viewed is done. But look, there's nothing wrong then with every now and again putting your strong group together for a specific something, or putting your kids together. But it's look, as I said, I think it's a grey. I'll claim the grey area one on that. Yeah. Okay. So we'll just take it. Yeah. Again, going back to what you were saying kind of earlier on in the course of the presentation, whereby you know, people who are saying you have to do all games-based stuff, like the truth is probably somewhere in the middle there a small bit. We've maybe 2 or 3 more there. If anybody does have any more questions, just to pop them into the Q&A there, right? How soon would you begin coaching weaker foot or weaker side drills with young children?
Once they come in the door. As I said, we'd be doing it, I'm sure you're the same, Barry. We'd be doing it with junior infants, and we'd be encouraging doing everything left and right as much as possible. As I said, the best players to play inter-county for whatever county, they're all competent left and right. And the earlier they start, the easier it'll be for them to transition to keep doing it. So the minute they come in the door, you just need to be talking right, left, right, left, right, left continuously. Don't be going strong side or weak side, just right, left, right, left. The kids will gradually gravitate towards one, but keep encouraging doing both. As soon as they come into the club, away you go.
Yeah, it is interesting, I suppose, when a child of 5, 6 or 7, they don't really know that they have a weaker side or whatever, you know, that if they were practicing both from a very, very young age, you know, chances are by the time they get to 10, 11 or 12, there wouldn't be such thing as a weaker side. They'd probably be reasonably competent to kind of striking the ball off both. So it is, a lot of it is probably the coach's mindset on the thing as well, you know. Yeah. Another question just here, just from the Q&A. We'll take 2 more. So what are your thoughts on streaming in end of session matches? Strong with the strong and weak with the weak, etc. I suppose it's probably kind of a similar kind of theme to previous, but this is in the context of probably games. Should you have, like, if you're having 2 or 3 matches, should you probably divide them up based on ability, or what way would you do it?
Again, same as I said well ago, Bar, I think there's a grey area. Sometimes you do it, other times you don't. I think there's value to it at times, but I think there's value from a playing perspective. But I think the psychosocial perspective, like, there's so much research out there about it that you should, like, you're basically telling the child they're not very good, without telling them. But the kids are smart, they know, and it's something to be cautious of, that if you're going to be looking back in 10 years' time and you're after losing over 50% of those weaker players at under 10, you have to ask why. And the problem will come back to, a lot of the time, the focus went on the good fellas. And it's the same if we have an A and a B team at a match at a Blitz next weekend. The better coach will probably, or the more important coach or the head coach will probably go with the A team. And the Bs can sense all that. So it all plays into the thing, as I said. Forget about them as a player. We spoke about earlier on about just the skill that we learn, be it a high catch or whatever, is a player, but there's so many other skills as well. You have to do that with a player. The player isn't just the person that's gone out hitting the ball over the bar. The player is the person that's going home, that's in the same class, the person that's not being picked in the schoolyard and stuff like that. We've got to be so conscious of all those things.
Take all that into account then as well, yeah. Somebody's just after saying here, are we saying no drills from under 12 down?
I'm going to agree. And look, I think it's possible that once a child is competent in a skill, and what I mean competent, like if I want you, like Barry, you're coming to me at 6, I throw the ball, you catch the ball into your chest, I'd say you're somewhat competent in the skill, you can execute it. What's the next level? So the next level, as I said, I know we'll do drills where we've got kids just for their own level as much as anything else, where they'll do things, but like, in under 12, like, what drills does he need to do that can't be done better than the game? A drill is in isolation. It's only working on one facet, whereas you're not working on communication, teamwork, which is awareness. You're not working anything else that's needed for the game. So I'm not saying go completely no games based, but I'm saying, like, there will be times when you veer back and forth. But I'm saying it should be, if you're doing a drill, you need to be questioning yourself and going, can I make a game out of this? So I said, even if it's simple, I'll just give you an example of a simple jab lifting, where we go out, jab lift the ball, and you run around the cone, you drop it, and the next person goes. Something older generations have done. But like, it'd be very easy now if I said, right, Barry, you go jab lift the ball, I'm going to run in after you, trying to get it off you before you get into the hand. We're still working a drill, but because there's a competition, that's a game. And there's learning in that, and there's huge learning. So I said, how can you tinker something to make it more of a challenge? Because I said, I can jab lift the ball at the age of 7. Most kids can. Like, we can't just keep them jab lifting the ball uncontested for the next 5 years. We got to bring it up. So once there's a competition element, someone tackling or challenging or the scoring element, that's a game. So that's what I'd say to that. Yeah, so it's essentially probably trying to mirror what you're doing in your training sessions to make it as much as possible as like what a match is probably like ultimately, because when they start playing games at 7 or 8,
you know, all the straight line drills in the world may not help them when they're actually dealing with an opponent or stuff like that. So it's probably just getting the balance right between drills and games in that scenario. So, so final question. How do we engage kids to keep up physical activity and GA involvement during the lockdown? So this one's probably very relevant, obviously, at the moment. It will be probably for another few weeks, and look, potentially could be into the future as well. So what's your own thoughts on that, Colm?
Yeah, look, as I said, it's just something that I'm after seeing an awful lot the last few weeks. Is the more so the kind of Dublin clubs are being very active in doing Zoom sessions and stuff like that. But like, look, there's a number of different things you do. Like I've done Zoom sessions for under sixes down, and the kids have loved it. Doing physical activity, half an hour of running and jumping around the front room, it's great. As they get older, they might need challenges. So as I said, we're obviously probably not going to get outside, but if we said to a bunch of under 10s, right, we're going to have a competition, there's 5 groups of 4 or 4 groups of 4 there, these are your teams, we're going to do these 10 exercises every day, and you've got to do them and get your mum or dad to text in to say they were done. So all of a sudden it's competition. So things like that are very, like, kids will engage with competitions more than they will engage in just doing it for the sake of it. So I said, think outside the box a small bit. What would you do if you're in training and you wanted to have a bit of fun with the kids? And that's, you got to think of what would we do if we wanted to have a bit of fun with them. Don't worry too much about teaching them hurling, football, anything, skills or strength or whatever, speed or anything like that. Just think, how can we keep them engaged to give them a bit of a buzz of meeting up their friends in the club and stuff like that without boring the hell off them. So as I said, that's what I'd say in that. But think Zoom calls and have the crack with Zoom calls, have a quiz or have a challenge where players might have to go and find a soup ladle, and whoever's team is back first with the soup ladle get off the next exercise, and you do a squat jumps in for everybody else or something like that. Simple things like that, but just think fun.
Yeah, brilliant. Colm, you've been super with your time, and a really good presentation, and very good of you to give your time over to answer all the questions that people had as well. I want to thank Colm hugely for agreeing to be the first presenter on our series of webinars. We really appreciate it, Colm. In fairness, any time I've ever had to ring you about anything or get advice from you about something, you've always been 100%. So we really appreciate your time.
Cheers, Barry. Thanks very much, and best luck to the Déise in 2021.
Fingers crossed, but only when we play Cork, maybe not so much. Is that right?
Exactly.
Super. So look, thanks everybody for tuning in. We had a great crowd tuned in for the duration of Colm's talk with some brilliant questions as well. I hope you all enjoyed it. We'll have plenty of more webinars coming up in the coming weeks. So next week we'll have John Quinn talking about the role of the coaching officer. We've Peter Nash, Limerick GDA, will be talking about the teenage player as well down the line. We've Mikey Beavens, who's the Waterford senior hurling coach, will be talking about club teams preparing for the adult season. And then we'll have David Robinson and John Walsh as well talking about warm-ups and how to prepare your team the very best for match day. And in addition, then a little bit further out, then in April, we'll have Barry Milan and Owen Mooney, two extremely highly rated coaches, I suppose, nationally, never mind locally, nationally. They're amongst the best that you'll get. So we hope you enjoyed the webinar. Like I said, the recording of this will be available to any of you that logged on. And also you'll be able to view this on YouTube as well. We'll upload it onto our YouTube page there in the next day or two. But other than that, I just want to say thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you all enjoyed it, and we'll talk to you all soon. Thank you.